Greetings and welcome to another edition of Open Door. I have two extremely special guests, and we're actually making history today because we have a father and son. And when you look at them, you'll see the resemblance. And I will tell you that both of them are each a movement in and of themselves. It gives me a great deal of honor and pleasure to welcome to Open Door Mr. Stephen E. Boyd and Mr. Stephen Jamal Boyd.
Pleasure being here.
Truly honored, Vince.
Well, I'm really happy to have you, and I just thought that there's so much history between the both of you that to just do 28 minutes would not be enough. So we're going to get into a few things, and we're going to make this a part one and part two. So, folks, stay tuned because you're about to go for a ride.
Right.
We're going to start with Mr. Stephen E. Boyd, and we're going to also connect with Jamal to talk about his story, because right before we started this taping, Stephen E. Boyd told me that we could probably spend an hour just on Jamal's story.
That's true.
So before we get to Jamal's story, let's start with Steve. Now, I like to be transparent with viewers and radio listeners, and I let folks know how I know people. First of all, Stephen E. Boyd is somebody who knows everybody. He knows everybody. There's nobody that Stephen E. Boyd doesn't know. But I've had the pleasure of knowing Stephen E. Boyd for decades. And I've known him to be a part of so many different things that all serve humanity. So we struggled when it came to how do I identify Stephen E. Boyd? Do I say that he's a tech entrepreneur? Do I say that he's an activist? Do I say that he's a musician, artist? There are so many different things that comprise who he is. There was a struggle, but when I spoke to him, he said, well, I'm a tech entrepreneur. And you said something else. I want to say musician,
Well,
but you said artist.
Artist. But you know, the thing of it is, of it really is the spiritual basis upon which you build yourself or you give the credit. So all credit goes to God. I'm a child of God, and that's what I've been for since childhood. And I'm so honored, blessed, and flawed, working on all those issues, trying to correct myself, heal myself, because I'm just like everybody else, man. We all make mistakes, we all fall down, but we have to get up.
Amen.
We got to get up.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm a lot of different things, but this is a ministry. Everything we do is a ministry. It is, and to the honor goes to God.
Okay. So knowing you as well as I do, I know that you're not a native Clevelander. You actually started out in Kansas City. Talk about your transition from that side of the country to this side of the country.
Very quick synopsis on it actually is, as you described, beginnings in Kansas City, Kansas. But there's always been a Cleveland connection, even since childhood. And I had all kinds of experiences in Kansas City as a child, including being in Soapbox Derby, which the prize was going to be, the grand prize that goes to everybody around the nation is you get to come to Akron and go be in the national. But my car came in so far last that was not even conceivable. But growing up in Kansas City, what I thought about relative to Cleveland was the fact that Superman was from here. The creator of Superman was from here. And the fact that the Cleveland Browns was a football team named after a brother. We didn't know nothing about Paul Brown. Jim Brown, that's all we knew. It was the greatest football player to live. And then his example of what to do for the community. So Jim Brown stood out. And then to find myself in Texas, meeting someone from Cleveland, Ohio, and being so impressed with the intelligence, etc. And of all the people I met in college from Ohio, they were really, and I still know them today, in association with them. It was a no-brainer that when this guy was born, we would move to Cleveland, Jackie's hometown, after where we had gone to school and worked. So we were involved in a lot of different things from the very beginning. And God has just used us to form arts ensembles, chambers of commerce, choirs, and community activism of all sorts. The first citywide Kwanzaa in Phoenix, Arizona, back in 1980, actually, not early 80s, 1980, all the way up to coming here, and then the work we've been blessed to do here, working with schools and helping with schools and rites of passage, music, though, and African art, Black entrepreneurship, our work with George Fraser, etc. So we've been blessed to be a blessing, to try to be helpful and to work with other people who've been helpful. So this fella grew up in an environment where he saw two parents on the go all the time and dragging him along to certain places. And it's not surprising that we'd have the kind of experience that we've had, when I was helped to create Hue People. My goodness, from there, that just added on to all that we've experienced. Jackie and all her work with the storytellers and with the Black Child Development Institute, the quilters, etc. So we believe in Black art, and we believe in Black sport, because I can still shoot the pill. I mean, I can.
Okay, so you still hooping.
Oh yeah, I'm still hooping, man. When this cat finally won, which he did, he beat me savagely. He really did beat me savagely. But you should have seen him, the way he ran around the house hollering because he finally got me. After all those years.
Yes.
But basketball.
Speaking of blessings, the blessing is sitting right there to your left. Jamal, you started out in Cleveland then.
Well, I was born in Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay.
So like my father was saying, when they had me, my father was in the Air Force. And my mother, being raised in Cleveland originally, she was from Fayetteville, Tennessee, but raised in Cleveland, that's where the roots of Cleveland came from. So her parents, my late grandfather, Charles King, and my grandmother, Ruth King, they were here in Cleveland. And that was why they brought me here, I believe, probably around the age of like 1. So I've been here my entire life. I'm 41 now, so 40 years of being in Cleveland.
I think it was 6 months. You was
6 months. I wasn't even 1 yet.
You weren't even 1 yet.
So
yes,
Cleveland is definitely all that I know. Raised here in this city, and my parents put me in a good neighborhood, good school system, South Euclid schools, which at the time was a real diverse school system, so was able to just have a diverse friend group. But my parents definitely made sure that I was raised around Black culture, summer camps and things that they exposed me to, such as Mali Atu. I don't know if you're familiar with Mali Atu, founded by Dr. Sansa Clark. Was huge for my upbringing and my experience just as a young Black male growing up. So, and my grandmother, raised me at St. Timothy Missionary Baptist Church on 71st and Carnegie. So, I had a beautiful balance of cultural and spirituality, growing up. So, much props to my parents for put me in that environment.
Absolutely. And I've heard about some of your travels and how significant they were in terms of your evolution. We describe your father as a tech entrepreneur and as an artist. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to describe you as a tech entrepreneur, but I do know that you are an entrepreneur and you are also an artist. So talk about the artist piece.
Well, the artist piece, I would definitely once again give credit to my parents for exposing me to the arts, my entire life. I would say my first experience and memory of being an artist and being put into the arts is one of my father's early groups. He had a reggae group called the Gorilla Dread Posse. And
Liberation Posse.
Gorilla Dread Liberation Posse. And Dr. Mutabo Kanta, who I know you know well, was a member of that group. But at the age of like 6, I was standing on stage. They had me playing the tambourines, so that was my first exposure to, you know, being put into the arts. And I was in the choir, you know, growing up. I was in the orchestra, played the bass, and I'm a product of hip hop. You know, hip hop was the era that I grew up in. So once again, my father, working for the radio station, would bring home records and you know, expose me to artists of all types, from jazz to soul. But the hip hop is what just connected. I got video footage my mother has of me at like the age of 7, you know, rapping LL Cool J, I'm Bad, and you know, KRS-One, you know, BDP, Posse, and you know, those music, it just, it connected to me in such a way where, you know, I had to eventually jump in and become an artist myself, and you know, put out some music. So I've been blessed, you know, to have the experience to be exposed to arts, and eventually just influenced to becoming an artist myself.
Mm-hmm. I've had occasion to listen to some of your music, and I know that in some ways hip hop gets a bad rap just because of the direction that some musicians choose to take when it comes to their lyrical content.
Right.
But it seems to me that your lyrics have a spiritual base. Can you talk about how music is part of your mission as an artist to bring awareness to those who listen?
Wow. So, you know, once again, you know, my exposure to my culture, my exposure to my spirituality side definitely heavily influences the music that I create. You know, like you said, hip hop music has kind of gotten a bad rap, you know, for a lot of reasons of why I feel corporate America has used it to market material, market product, and poison our communities in so many different ways. And it's such influential. It's crazy. Hip hop is 50 years old, and at conception, they never seen it lasting longer than 5-10 years. And when corporate America got a hold of it, you know, they were able to, you know, trick people into, you know, using it for all sorts of satanic energies. You know, is the only way I can say it. And but hip hop also has the power of spoken word, and has been able to be a voice for the voiceless, and has a way to penetrate people's hearts in the same way I feel like gospel music can. You know, if you listen to the lyrics from those who have progressive and positive and conscious, you know, material that they want to put forth with the music. And so artists like I said, KRS-One, Mos Def, Talib Kweli, Common, The Roots. I mean, the list goes on. There's so many. Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul. Those artists were ones that I emulated. Those were the ones who just penetrated my heart because of the connection with African drums, African rhythms, the jazz influence, the gospel influence. It connected to me in a way where I wanted to use my musical influence in a similar way, you know. And so praise God that, you know, the music that I've been able to create has been able to reach people's ears in a way that can inspire and influence them to, you know, find a higher self. And that's what it does for me, you know, for myself first. You know, I listen to the music that I create, and it helps inspire me to keep on going, you know, through dark times and through troubled situations that, you know, our people have been put forth in this country. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's interesting because there's a parallel between your mission as a musician in terms of elevating consciousness, and then the man that's sitting right next to you has a definite connection with music and a great awareness of it. You know, I noticed some of the Facebook posts, and from time to time he will post music videos and recordings of artists, and I would say 99.9% of the time, it is something that is edifying in some kind of way. And I can't really think of something that he's shared that hasn't been edifying. But
sure.
I want to shift gears and talk to him about his connection with music. Those who are watching this program probably know, it's probably not a mystery, that you are an integral part of the group Hugh People Vocal Ensemble, and you operated as Hugh People for a number of years. Your colleague Afi Noor has had some issues that have prevented him from being fully engaged in your performances, but I just bring that up to illustrate the parallel between you and the fact that the music may not be hip hop, but the music is the music, jazz, R&B, cultural music, African music, all those things are a part of what you do as this great vocal group. Talk to us about what Hugh People Vocal Ensemble is and your role in that.
Very powerful arts gift that myself and Baba Afi Noor and Nkrumah were given. It's been said, that was my idea, and there's no need to go into the ramifications of that, because that connects me also to the power networking effort of George Fraser. That particular group is an evolution of what we created for the ending performance for George Fraser's first power networking session here in Cleveland. And in that particular ensemble, that was the really precursor for Hugh People. We had Barbara Barrett, Sister Gina Washington, I think Gina is her first name. She was an original member of Sweet Honey in the Rock, and some other singers, and I apologize for not remembering who they were. We had a mini choir that we put together and introduced to Cleveland an arts group called African Soul International. We gave Sister Jewel an opportunity to showcase the efforts that she'd been doing at that time. In fact, she didn't call it African Soul International. It was called Omowale Afrique Dance Company. So Cleveland's always had a rich arts heritage. So Hugh People came out of that. At the end of that, we said, let's see if we can put a quartet together. So we did with the members that we have now. And we didn't really make a big declaration about the type of music we do. But as we talked amongst ourselves, we knew that we wanted to represent the music of the diaspora. That's the point. And give voice to the idea that African people are more than rhythm and blues, jazz, or gospel. We're a whole compendium of all of that, supremely so, and then other art forms, vocal music art forms, and then that vocal music has evolved over the years from what people did prior to coming to America, what our ancestors who were enslaved created in terms of music, and the folk music all the way through the 20th century to what when we then got to rhythm and blues and jazz as we see it today. All of that came from something. We attempt to make a statement like that with this group, Hugh People. Mm-hmm. And we've always kind of known that. We didn't have to really talk a whole lot about that. And that's because Afi Noor and Nkrumah, Anita Rose Banks, and Sekou Salinas are artists extraordinaire and have been for many decades. So when many decade experienced artists get together, it's easy to then create very simple yet dramatic art pieces that convey that message we think is important of the classical nature, the traditional nature of the African American art form. That's the statement we're making, and we want to make it smooth. We want to do it real cool. We want to make it harmonic. We want to make it melodic and rhythmic. I think we're continuing to do that, and we're so thankful to what Cleveland has done. And then when we look at what Mrs. Boyd does with the storytelling, there's a relationship between musical art to drama, to dance, to the spoken word in its many art, in its many forms, from spoken word, rap, storytelling. That's all a song does. It's got to have lyrics that tell stories that make sense. So it's important that we tell sensory messages to each other that tell us positively what to do and not take that for granted. That's what we do with you people. So it's popular on some levels, and some levels it's not, because it's preachy. It's who do you think you are? But you know what? We all fall down. And then we have to get up every single day. And our race has been through what it's been through, and we're getting up. So that's the statement.
Yes.
And we want to be a vocal art group, vocal group delivery system that helps in that effort, along with our fine artists and our authors and our actors and actresses. We want to see that standard of what's considered black art increase and expand, be intergenerational, etc. We have to heal ourselves as black people. We need to make no mistake about that.
Mm-hmm. Well, you mentioned something that's really key, and what I take from it is that healing has a multi-pronged approach. Mm-hmm. And so when we look at artists, we look at folks who are healers. We bring relief to those who are downtrodden, who are depressed, who are going through something. And sometimes all it takes is that song to lift that person up for that moment. Sometimes all it takes is that piece of art that they can sit and look at and reflect and interpret and have it resonate with them in a way that takes them away from whatever it is that they're going through. I'm seeing a common thread.
Or a poem, Vince Robinson.
Yeah,
because
or a poem.
A poem does it.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. The spoken word art is so deep. Spoken word says it, but there's poems that I differentiate when it comes to spoken word. So you're a wordsmith extraordinaire of poems, brother, that resonate, that tell stories richly.
Yes, sir.
So I think we're all in the same camp here to a large
Right.
extent.
And I have to give a shout out to my brother, Mwatabu Okanta.
Yes.
Right.
Because Okanta was a person who told me that I had poetry in me, and he brought it out of me. And it has significantly affected my craft even to this day. But I'm reflecting on the name of the group, because you were quick to let Jamal know that it was the Gorilla Dread Liberation Posse. So when you talk about liberation, you talk about an active tool to instigate something on the part of people. When you talk about hip hop and your connection to hip hop, it's the same thing. You know, we've identified the fact that this is an industry that has used the music as a tool or a weapon against us.
Yes, sir.
But what you do is a countermeasure to that. So yeah, they're talking about shaking their behinds and talking about shooting people and all that other kind of stuff. But then you bring in a conscious element. You connect to folks like KRS-One and Talib Kweli and Mos Def, who have, I'll just say, lyrics that give you something to think about and give you something that can move you forward.
Yes, sir.
That's the message and that's the mission in the music that you do.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like I said, once again, you know, hip hop has easily shown its influence worldwide. You know, I've traveled abroad and seen how influential the music has been, you know, just as far as the dress, the style of dance, you know. And so it's apparent that we have to be able to shift it into a way that influences for the good, you know, the ones who have the heart to. I work with youth, and with my connection with youth, I see on a daily how influential the music is, you know, and it's just through their conversation. And so I try to stay engaged and stay connected to them through the music, but in a way that, you know, stimulates their mind and lets them know that there's more to life than, you know, some of the neighborhoods that they're living in and the conditions and the influences that are around them, that they can aspire for greater and higher. And, you know, music has been that powerful tool that you can use for that. So I'm just, like I said, so thankful that God has, you know, poured into me the ability to be able to do that through the music. You know, praise due to him.
So you have a nonprofit entity. Can you describe it for us?
Yeah, so the name of the nonprofit is the Junior Barnes Foundation. We were established in 2015. We were founded, unfortunately, because of the passing of one of my closest childhood friends. His name is William Barnes Jr. He was a close associate, classmate, former football teammate, a business partner. You know, him and his family helped me establish my first barbershop that was on 93rd in Cleveland in 2004. And, you know, so he was like extended family. And unfortunately, he was gunned down, you know, by gun violence. And because of the heart that I know that he had for community, and me and him had aspirations about doing some things in the neighborhood where the shop was on 93rd. After his passing, you know, God just put it on my heart to, you know, carry his name on in a greater way. You know, I didn't want his name just to be synonymous with being gunned down. You know, I know his life meant more than that. And so, you know, just with the help of his family, my family, friends, and just people in the community, we formed the Junior Barnes Foundation. And we've been doing beautiful work, you know, in the city, been connected with Cleveland School District. We have an after-school program. We run a summer camp. We do 2 outreaches every year where we, you know, give hats, scarves, and gloves to the homeless. We do back-to-school drive where we provide book bags and all school supplies for our partner in school, Anton Gardena. And, you know, our neighborhood partner, Burton Bell Carr, has been a beautiful sponsor, you know, just to help us move those efforts along. So I'm just thankful, you know, to be a vessel in that cause, because that's some of, you know, the most inspirational work that I feel like I'm connected to is the work with Junior Barnes Foundation.
We have just a few moments left in the show, but I want to make sure that people know how they can get connected with you and contribute to that cause.
So we have a website, juniorbarnes.org, JRBARNES.org, and all the information is there. Our social media connections are there. Our email attachment is there. They can also, you know, just call my phone number, 216-254-9472. And, you know, like I said, we have those 2 annual donation drives that we give back to the community, and, you know, reach out to us on social media.
Okay. So Stephen E. Boyd, Stephen Jamal Boyd are going to be my guests on the next show. So if you didn't get everything that you needed to get this time around, you can come back and join us in the next episode. Until then, we want to implore everyone to absolutely know yourself, love yourself, be yourself, and make today your best day. Join us on the next episode of Open Door, when my guests will be Stephen E. Boyd and Stephen Jamal Boyd. We'll see you soon.